You've likely come across irritating behaviors related to body language. The act of staring, for example, isn't viewed the same in every culture. In New York, a direct gaze might last for precisely 1 28/100ths of a second, a duration meticulously calculated and studied. Yet, in the Middle East, such eye contact can extend from 4 to 6 seconds. It highlights how cultural norms dictate the appropriateness of our gaze and its duration. In professional settings, it's customary to focus on a small triangle formed by the eyes and mouth. In informal situations, it's acceptable for our gaze to drift down to the chin and slightly below. Naturally, in business environments, letting your eyes wander below chest level is considered inappropriate. Pacing back and forth is an intriguing body language behavior. Some people tend to walk from one side to the other, especially in situations like waiting for a child's birth or at the airport. This movement is linked to the fluid in our ears. As we walk, the hairs inside the ear canal detect this fluid's motion. This explains why rocking a baby soothes them to sleep. For adults, this swaying motion becomes a comforting habit, especially useful in alleviating stress. By pacing, we repeatedly force our feet to touch the ground, activating our calf muscles. These muscles, known as the second heart, help pump blood upwards, facilitating better cognitive function. This collaboration between the primary and secondary hearts enhances blood flow to the brain. Thus, pacing is not only a physical activity, but also beneficial for our thought processes, a fact many creative individuals have noted. Handshakes are a fascinating aspect of human interaction. A weak handshake, sweaty palms, or a handshake where the other person pulls you towards them or twists your hand in a dominating gesture are all seen as poor etiquette. But why do we shake hands in the first place? This tradition dates back to our primate ancestors, who would extend hands and touch fingers upon meeting. The idea that handshakes were meant to show the absence of weapons is somewhat of a myth. In reality, weapons were so large and conspicuous that hiding them was never an option. The real reason we shake hands is more deeply rooted in our psychology, teaching us to remember negative experiences, like avoiding a hot stove, so we don't have to relearn these lessons every day. In this way, if we shake someone's hand and it is clammy, or if a person grabs us in a peculiar manner, it imprints in our brain not for weeks or months, but it can linger in memory for years. Hence, it's crucial not to botch it. For a perfect handshake, aim your fingers downwards, extend your hand at the same level it is offered to you, briefly shake, and that's it. Invasion of personal space varies among individuals. This can stem from cultural differences, like New Yorkers typically standing closer to each other than, say, Midwesterners. It might also be a personal preference. One way to avoid invading personal space, which usually makes people uncomfortable and causes psychological discomfort after the initial handshake, is to not remain standing in the same spot. Take a step back and observe how the other person behaves. If you see that you both took a step back, it indicates a mutual need for more personal space. If the person moves closer to you, they might be accustomed or prefer to be a bit closer. In this case, you can stand at a slight angle to them so the space between you doesn't feel as constrained. Touch phobia exists. Some people need to touch. They might touch your hand or shoulder during a conversation to emphasize a point, etc. Let's be honest, some people simply do not want to be touched. For some, touches are pleasant and they use them to ensure they are listened to. Touches underline what's said and can be very convenient, especially if you grew up in a large family where touching your sibling to say, "I'm talking to you," is normal. However, it's important to remember that not everyone appreciates this behavior. Manspreading, in principle, you have the right to occupy a certain space around you, the width of your hips plus about 5 centimeters on each side. This is actually a social convention. Naturally, people tend to occupy more space when they feel confident. We might not even notice this habit in ourselves, but it exists. The problem, of course, arises when our actions start to encroach on others. Filler words and coughing, such as, are typically heard when someone is about to say something difficult. It's common for people to experience discomfort when faced with challenging questions or situations. Consider situations where someone is asked a difficult question, such as, "When can we expect the results?" Before responding, they might exhibit this behavior, like coughing, as a subconscious response to the stress or uncertainty of the situation. This is what's referred to as body language. All these ums, coughs, and filler words, as well as nervous movements, are ways to increase psychological comfort. To some extent, it's a matter of self-control. Monitoring oneself and questioning the accuracy of these habits is crucial. The simplest action you can take is to record a 5 to 10 minute speech on video. Ask someone to watch it, and point out if you constantly look down or keep coughing. We all experience these issues. It's not about striving for perfection, but working with what we have. Fortunately, if it's just these minor issues, they are easily corrected. Rolling your eyes expresses both annoyance and contempt simultaneously. Annoyance is tolerable. Contempt is not, because contempt is always hierarchical, placing someone above and someone below, which is simply unacceptable. Tapping, foot tapping, pencil or finger tapping, leg swinging, all these actions help us fill the time. They help us cope with situations that have reached a deadlock. When we have to wait and to calm down, we resort to rhythmic, repetitive actions. Why do rhythmic actions calm us? Our brain always needs soothing. Even at the embryo stage, we suck our thumb. Repetitive movements, such as tensing and relaxing a muscle or bending and straightening a joint, send calming signals to the brain. Why are some actions annoying here? And why do some things you love not appeal to others? Our species is complex. The human brain is the most complex entity in the world, and we have preferences. If you doubt it, visit a store and observe the variety of toothpaste options available. We're very particular, even about the most minor things. And when we see something that deviates from our preferences, it becomes an irritant, both socially, culturally, and personally.